Should we be like at a ball game or something? Because it is like opening day, right? Oh, by the way, I am
And
Brent Leary. Yeah.
I'm Paul Greenberg, and let me just say, honestly, as much as I love CRM players, I literally would rather be watching the Yankees right now. But they
especially
are up 3-0.
especially when Aaron Judge goes yard his first at bat for the season, right?
Yeah, well, and then Gleyber Torres, of course, shows that he is an important and valuable player, and it was amazing. It's been an amazing. And then Garrett Cole struck out 11 before he went out for a relief pitcher.
Well, yes, folks, this is the CRM players. It isn't pardon the interruption, but you know, at least for today it might be because it is opening day. It's Thursday afternoon. We're back because last week we weren't here.
No,
We were in Vegas. So remember, your favorite place.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Actually, I mean, it. If you the thing I realized, if I'm not here, that's literally probably the only other place I am.
So if you're not here, you're going to be in Vegas.
That's about it. Judging from my current and future schedule, pretty much.
Well, we're here for now, and we aren't alone. We have assembled a crew. We've got a pretty good crew. I mean, generally speaking. But we assembled the crew, and we're going to have a debate. I think maybe, possibly, maybe not.
What about that? Pretty good crew. We're going to debate that.
Well, no, we can honestly say that without debate, without qualification.
What? Well,
I don't know.
I don't know. I was about to say, try. I mean, maybe with qualification, but yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what sort of is shaking me right now? We're a couple minutes in, and something's missing. Something's missing. Someone's missing.
Someone. Oh, he's not here.
How can you do a moment of spin when there's no spin for the moment? I mean, what's going on? Got to put out an APB on spin because that's
listen. Let me contact police squad.
Yeah, Lieutenant Drebin, please.
Yes,
and his boss
APB on spin.
I love my boss was already on the scene. Why? How was Ed already on the scene before Frank? Anyway, we're going way down a rabbit hole, which is not something we do unless it's like the third Friday of the month.
Exactly.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, I know. Verlander's on the IL already, though, Alan.
What did you do? Think about pitching and broke something, or
I don't know. Something happened.
Oh, and Thomas is stepping in. Non-spin greetings so far.
Oh, look at Rebecca. Look at Rebecca.
Bonjour, poor.
Yeah, hello for Sven.
Oh,
she's basically stepping in to take Sven's place and give us another language.
Okay, so that's French. I know. See, I got that.
Yeah. French.
Except for pour, I thought that was just somebody pouring a drink. But
no, that's also French. It's pour is French for four. That's true.
Never a dull moment. Well,
now Esteban seems to be having some trouble with the link that I sent him, but it's the only link I have.
I see him in the green room.
Oh, so he made it in this time.
I'm prepared. Everybody is present and accounted for. This is
what?
Good. All right. So before we get into a debate, we're gonna have some hot topics. We're gonna throw it out to the crew. Any thoughts on last week, Adobe Summit? Anything? Throw out there before we jump into stuff.
Yeah, a couple of things, really. I mean, so I'm writing a post. It's actually the first writing I've done for over a year. I've been so focused on PPN that I haven't written anything. And let's say this, the writing will appear in, I hope, at least the longer piece will maybe appear. I don't know where it's going to appear, but hopefully in our newsletter, right? It's long, but the problem is it's long form, and we're trying not to do that. However,
right, so wait a minute. So when you say long form, what does that mean? Because
it means it means true long form, right? Meaning, unlike the pretenders who think long form is 1,000 words, right? I hit 1,000 before I got through the context.
Before you even
Okay.
wake up, I mean, you got 1,000 words. So yeah.
Hey, Michael, I'm doing the same thing as you.
Yeah,
I'm not watching them, but I'm following them on game day.
Thomas says, is long form a book?
No, but it's long. So let's say this: I'm well over 1,000 words. Haven't even gotten to the core yet. So,
what if you had to guess? What inning would you be in if you were doing innings for your whatever you're writing?
The bottom of the second.
Okay,
maybe the top of the third.
There's a long way to
go. Yes, there is. So, but that said, I think the title of the post says the whole thing for me. It's entitled One Adobe, One Message, One Platform, One Ecosystem, Half an Event.
Damn. Wow.
Right. So that says it all. Right. Basically, look, and I will keep this short form. In a nutshell, it's very simple. Adobe is moving toward that single platform that they claim they have, right? And in the course of that, they've also understood that they are a company that needs to, as well as wants to, focus on creators as their kind of ecosystem. And they built a platform, still a little weak in some areas, but they built a platform that basically does that, announced a product associated with that platform called Firefly, which is a sort of chat GPT-ish project, application that handles, I'm not going to get to the details, but let's just say this. It handles it handles illustrations and video and creation really nicely with a chat GPT capability. And on the ecosystem part, and most importantly, they announced the content supply chain. And that they're the first company I know who's attempted to deal with distribution, content distribution, and has actually come up with something that fulfills the need, that starts with basically the point of creation to the point of consumption and takes care of everything running in between, both in serial and parallel, when it comes to an ecosystem. So the two announcements were spectacular. The conference, not so spectacular. In fact, the conference, they misconceived their own conference. They ultimately, they're up against a very high standard, right? And that's Adobe Max, really. Not other conferences, but Adobe Max. And the idea is ultimately, if they're really building one ecosystem, one platform, one Adobe, then those conferences are continuations on a, thank you, Esteban, continuum that should be seen that way. Adobe Max leads to the Adobe Experience Cloud Experience Summit, which leads to Adobe Max, which leads to Adobe, not two competing conferences, which is what they tend to treat them as. And they treat them as if they have entirely different audiences and they work in very different ways. And they're really not. And they're a single company. They haven't figured that out yet, I think, fully. And as a result of that, we had a really dynamic and important announcements with a lackluster conference. And I'll leave it at that. There's much more I could say. So what about what you're thinking?
I'm going to keep it real short because we got a lot of folks here. I just hope that the content supply chain thing does not get overtaken by all the exuberance around AI, generative AI, whatever, ChatGPT, because that's what everybody was focused on for the most part. But I think the real interesting thing is the content supply chain management and talking about content in a kind of the same way and treating content the same way as a physical good gets delivered and created. I think that's actually going to be the bigger thing because everybody else is talking about that stuff, but I haven't heard anybody else talk about content in that way and kind of setting it up. So I think that could be the big thing that comes out eventually. If it doesn't get completely swamped by all the the Gen AI and the Sensei and Firefly and all that, totally understand why, but that content supply chain management stuff was really interesting. All right. Got to get through that quick. A couple of other quick things. Next week, I'm doing a few. Look at that picture. He looks so good. doing a few good minutes with our buddy Don Shorman from Pega. I just kind of got that booked, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to ask him about this picture, what was on his mind when that picture
what wasn't.
or it wasn't. And if anybody has a good caption for this picture of Don Shorman, put it in the comments. I may use it for something. I might bring it to his attention. It's almost, what do you think he's thinking?
I don't have a clue. All I know is he's scaring me.
he looks very. I've never seen him that serious looking.
Well, it's also like he's honing in on something that he's looking at and says, "I'll get it eventually. I'll get them eventually." Right? Look at that.
Eventually.
No, yeah, meaning there's an object he's going to attack, and he's just standing back and looking at it.
Could be the Playaz. I don't know.
That's what I mean. I'll get them eventually.
All right, we'll get rid of Don for the moment there, and let's see. A very quick stump the Godfather.
Oh, you're kidding me.
We got to do a stump the Godfather really quick. And we do have some big news for next week around Stump the Godfather. And people,
that's why I thought I'd get away with it this week.
People, I am saying stump, not stump. Stump the Godfather. We gotta.
Unfortunately, other people are not saying that.
Well, this is a quick one. I want to pull up something on my end. You would think, okay, all right. So there was a recent article on tech. Well, I can't tell you because then you might look and try to find the answer real quick.
No, I don't do that.
A recent article.
Here, I'll hold my hands up while we're doing this.
It was.
So you can see I'm not on a keyboard.
Yeah. Okay. That looks like somebody.
Although I didn't tell you that I know how to use a keyboard with my foot, right? So
yeah, but it looks like somebody's sticking you up right now. You don't have to worry about that. All right. A recent survey found what percentage of workers say they are too busy to seek help for mental health?
What? Too busy? Well, well, first of all, who's asking them to? That's a flawed. There's no way to answer that because here's the thing: who are they even? It depends on who they're asking.
I'll give you a new survey of hundreds of HR professionals and full-time employees has found that while nearly X amount of workers are struggling with their physical and mental health, X amount say they're too busy or too embarrassed to seek care.
So this is I presume, of those who say they are struggling or with issues, this percentage is too busy, or of the people who don't even have an issue or they don't need the help, they're too busy. I would just go for
throw some out. Thomas has put out 80%.
And you know what? That's as good as any number, really. I mean, the reality is that's a dumbass setup of a question, right? That they did there. It's a terrible survey because there's so many things implied in it. So the answer is, I'll tell you what, Thomas, just to make it a little different, I'll say 73. Okay, that who too embarrassed or too busy. And my assumption is of those who say they need it.
Okay, is that your final answer?
It's got to be because I have again, dumb, terribly designed survey.
All right. 45% of workers say they're too busy to seek help for mental health. 25% say they were too embarrassed to do that.
That's 70.
So that's 70%.
70. So I'm 3% off.
22% said they can't afford it. Anyway.
Well, that counts too. So that's 92%.
No, they
or don't. Could there be multiple answers possible?
Nah, that's I'll give you 70%. You guys are close.
How about you give me a different survey?
We'll give you a different one next week when Stump the Godfather comes back. The game that is.
Jeez, man.
Taking the world by storm. All right.
What a survey.
All right. So last week.
Did they ever think they would be too embarrassed to say they need help?
I'm going to put you in
Meaning
contact.
to answer the survey?
I'm going to put you in contact with the folks doing the survey. This is actually,
Yeah, I think so.
too bad we didn't have them on for this debate that we're getting ready to have.
Jesus Christ, what a survey.
All right. And then Christy weighs in. Well, it's possible those answers are all overlapping.
Yeah, I know. Who knows?
I gave you 70% for the two.
I'll take it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll take it but I deny the validity of the survey.
You could just say you're right and be
no.
done.
I'll say thank you for giving me 70%. I'm not saying the survey's right. I think the survey's terrible.
And on that note, folks, let's get into.
I'm getting
what was called the great debate. Is that what we're doing? Great debate.
Yeah, now it's.
Let's do this because this is actually came about because of the premiere issue or premiere episode, whatever, the first episode of No BS with BS. And of course, the second BS is Bob Stutz. And he did a great first episode. He covered several interesting topics, 3 that really stood out to us, right?
Yep. Should we, you want to say them?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we tackle them one at a time? And I got a clip for each one. All right. But before we do that, you want to introduce who will be debating today?
Yeah. So this is, say, an interesting crew because it's, let's see, it's a combination of CMO, analyst, and former analyst, evangelist, and irascible person. Well, right. So
this kind of narrows it down for one of the people.
Yeah.
Or not really. I can think it. Well, maybe. All right.
No, well, I'm going. Well, actually, there's 2 irascibles in this one. I'll say that at least. All right. So, who do we got? All right. So, first and foremost, we have Lori McCabe, and Brent, you and I have known Lori for years. I mean, she's a co-founder of the SMB group. She's a brilliant analyst. She's been focused on the small business side for years. But you know what? Like all really great small business analysts, she knows the enterprise too. And it's like, even though you keep your focus somewhere, you tend to have a wide scope. Lori, which is great news, is not only highly opinionated, but rock solid in what she says and pretty much can back up whatever it is. And so, she's remarkable, really. And so Lori is first. Then we have Jody Spencer. Now, Jody has been a CMO. She's a fractional CMO and advisor now. We met Jody actually through the happy hour, and Jody is one of the major forces behind In the Hot Seat, which is one of the PPN shows. She is an incredibly well-spoken and at the same time knowledgeable, and not only knowledgeable person, but also really good at executing. I mean, she gets things done. She comes up with a plan. She pursues that plan. She keeps it going. She manages the people who have to be managed or works with those people, because she also, she's not, what she isn't is a micromanager. And she also has, let's say, very strong opinions on things. And she's just a lovely person too. So we have Lori, we have Jody. Now we go to our 2 irascibles, and these are truly irascible people. We have Brian Summer, and Brian, analyst for more years than I think even he can count. He runs his own company called TechVentive. He is a hardcore big enterprise guy. Again, will overlap to the smaller side because analysts really have, in our industry, tend to have wider ranges than their focus. Brian is arguably one of the great storytellers in all analyst world. He is also somebody with extremely strong opinions too, and will fight tooth and nail to make sure that you not only hear them, but you understand them. And again, just a really down to earth Texan, who we all just love. And then finally, and of course, this is absolutely the last but definitely not least, we have our buddy Esteban Kolsky, one of the original four horsemen of the CRM apocalypse, and the one who actually coined the phrase that governs them, which is bringing CRM to its knees since 2008. Right? Esteban recently left SAP, where he was the chief evangelist and also a leader in the CX world, but he also has been one of the leading voices, loudest voices, most informed voices, and visionary voices in the analyst world. A former Gartner analyst, was an independent for many years, one of my favorite people in the whole world, period. And one of my brothers from another mother people, right? And he is, again, describing Esteban and Brian as irascible are perfect descriptions of these two. So let's bring them on and see what they got to say.
Yeah, well, before we do that, it has been a while since Esteban has been on, so I feel a need to do this before we go any further.
Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
That's right. This is the first R-rated show.
It's funny how we didn't even play that for Bob Stutz, and he's been dropping F-bombs on the show.
but that's not. That was our historic disclaimer for Esteban with some voiceover added in.
Yeah. All right. All right. Now that we got that out the way, let's bring them on. Lori, Jody, Brian, and the irascible one, Esteban Cole.
See, just shows you how irascible he is. He's vertical where everyone else is horizontal.
I know, he always has to stand out. It's always a thing.
There you go. Ask and you shall receive.
How did you like bringing back the disclaimer for you?
It's about fucking time.
That's right. Viewer discretion continues to be advised.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Now, first of all, thank everybody for making time to do this. This kind of was a spur of the moment thing, but we got some topics I think you guys would make some interesting commentary with, and who knows, maybe have a slight difference of opinion on some of this stuff. But before we turn you loose, we actually kind of got the inspiration from some of the stuff that Bob was talking about. So we got 3 clips. We'll play one at a time. Play a clip, let you get into it. Play another clip, let you get into it again. Play another clip, let you get into it again. And hopefully there'll be no more clips because, too many clips could lead to real violence. So anyway. All right. So I think the first one is going to be kind of on the lack of leadership and where it's lacking, and see what you guys have to say about that. So here it is, clip number 1.
And I see all these things on leadership. Jesus Christ, there is so many different things about leadership. People say you got to do this to be a leader and that to be a leader. And it's got to be confusing to people. There's a LinkedIn user who just said managers don't lead anymore. And that's true. I think we don't even know what leadership means anymore. And for me, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. First and foremost, as a leader, you take care of your people. You protect them. You take the hit for them at the end of the day. You don't let them take it. You take it at the end of the day. I don't see managers standing up and saying, you keep them, screw you, I'll walk out the door instead. Didn't see that happening here.
All right. That could go longer, but I think you get the gist of it. First of all, where are we today in the enterprise with leadership? Where is it gone wrong and why, if it has gone wrong? I don't care who goes first or jumps in.
Yep.
I don't think anything's that different. I mean, you've always had good managers and bad managers, always had managers that take care of their people and leaders that take care of their people and those that don't. I think the question may be, are people getting more self-centered and more consumed with their own upward trajectory, in this world. It may be getting more dog eat dog.
The rewards are not there for people to lead. The rewards are there for people to be concerned and focused, and like Lori said, on themselves. Whatever you do in an enterprise has an ultimate goal of hi, Kristen. Whatever you do in the enterprise has the ultimate goal to put you at the top, to become the guy with the money and the power, right? That's what leadership is these days. And you're going to get what you pay for. You want people that are going to be focused on making money and being in power, and that's what you're going to get. And there's no, look, I work for Bob, and Bob is right. You protect your people. When I worked with Bob and worked in his team, I felt protected. Then I left that team, and things changed very, very quickly. It was my first and last experience in corporate America, and it was impressive because nothing changed in the 20 years in between.
Yeah.
So don't say that things are different now. Things are where they always were. Politics reign. People want to get to the top and be the guy, but they don't know how to be the guy. Or the person. I don't want to go pronoun centric here, but
I would jump in and kind of expand on what you talked about, Lori. With right, everybody's out for trying to reach their social ladder climb. I mean, just look at LinkedIn, right? And we see what's happening on LinkedIn, and it's not necessarily a source of posts with a lot of information. There's a lot of self-promotion posts that are on there. And I think, when that comes back to the leadership roles, your teams see that, right? And your teams, they need to believe that you're in it for them as well, and and you have their back. And that's sometimes a hard thing to do when they think that you're just in it for you, and that trust value is gone.
But can we take that a little further? Because I mean, it's unfair to focus on the leaders without focusing on the behaviors of the people that are being led. It's not like
Fair.
the people being led. It's not like the people being led at their thirst for leadership. They're just, I mean, a lot of the people are just there to do a job, get a paycheck, and go home, and they don't have the same intent that things used to be. Things change dramatically in the sense that, COVID changed a lot of things. But even before then, things changed dramatically. That the purpose of the business is not what it used to be.
But you can really tell when you're with people in a company where there is that kind of positive leadership. That it's very, very pervasive throughout the company and throughout the employees. They may not be working to, save the planet or something, but they're treated with respect, and they're important in their companies, regardless of the roles they play. And that culture it stands out so much because, unfortunately, I think there's a lot of cultures that are so not like that.
But culture and leadership are not related,
You don't think culture comes a lot from the top down? If the guy at the top...
Absolutely no. If it comes from the top down, it's imposed. Culture is a shared belief among everybody. No, it cannot come from the top down. The leaders could embrace the culture, but they don't impact the culture. If leaders impacted the culture,
I think the leaders are the ones that set the tone. It's very hard to have an inclusive, positive culture if the leader is always on everybody's back to just, bottom line. You have to perform for what management wants.
That's not true. I mean, look at airlines. Airlines are horrible. Airlines are an absolute disgrace of the leadership. Anybody who works for the leadership in an airline has absolutely zero concern for the people below. And yet, the people that work for an airline perform day in and day out, concerned about moving the passengers from A to B in the best way possible. And they just try to do the best for the people that actually use the airline without regard for what the leaders care. Some of the rules in the airline were actually, there's so many people that work in an airline that bypass the rules to favor the passenger that is not even funny. But the thing is, that's the culture of the airline. It's made at the bottom, not at the top. The leaders have no influence over the culture of the people that are doing the work. The leaders are doing their own thing and focus on their own thing.
I'll have to disagree, but
well, yeah, but Brian, you always disagree with me. But
I'd like to hear what Brian has to say. Brian, what do you think?
Oh, glad to be on the panel. Hi, everybody.
Dude, if you don't step up, nobody's gonna call on you. So,
So, I think you guys, there was a comment at the top of this where somebody said things hadn't changed the last 20 years. There's a fair bit of truth to that. But what also hasn't changed and is a black eye on the HR technology space is no one's ever really tried to figure out an answer to the number one reason we have all this attrition. We're not winning the war for talent and everything else. It's because we never build applications to help companies find who are the rotten eggs in management and the executive leagues. If you could figure that out and get them out of a company, then you don't have so many pissed off and or unempowered employees who can't progress and grow their careers. So to me, we have failures on leadership, failures certainly on technology that would find it. And we also have some spineless people in HR who will not confront the bad people and get them out of management.
So we still,
and by the way,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Brian, but let's be honest. We still need to actually bring the problem down to the frontline employees and the lack of engagement, the lack of care, and the lack of belief in the company. It's not a question of culture as much as a question that personal accountability has gone out, altogether. If you have no personal accountable for what you do with the company, you cannot expect your leader to actually guide you towards the promised land. It's got to be on you and the leader and HR and everybody else. It's a full ecosystem. Thank you, Paul. It's a full continuum. It's. I mean, we talk about technology, but it's the same with people. It has to be an ecosystem. Everybody needs to be part of it. It cannot just be put like the leaders are bad, therefore everything's going to be bad.
Not only do I agree with you that what we ought to be creating is a virtuous cycle where the people at the top are doing good for the people at the bottom and vice versa. And if you got a bad apple anywhere in the process, you need to cull it out and kick it out of there because it's going to just spoil everything for everyone else.
Totally agree. And that's,
okay,
that's
Bob,
what
finally, Esteban and I have agreed on something. Let's call the Wall Street Journal and everybody on this one.
So wait, Bob makes this point to your. So this is add to your question, to your comments here. Bob makes a very strong point, and it does go to the heart of culture and business and so on, where he said, "Look, this isn't family. People need to stop talking about family. It's a business, right? People go there, they have to do work, and then at the end of the day, quote unquote, at the end of the day, they get their paycheck." And then he went into that leadership piece about still the job of that leader to step up and support the people at their work, but stop talking about family. He said, and stop. And the way he put it was more or less stop overemphasizing culture. He didn't say no culture, but he said stop overemphasizing it. The fundamental of the business is it's got to produce things, do things, and then make money for whoever. And he sort of threw that in. So what do you guys think about all of that? Because it goes to the heart of how you're even going to define a leader.
I'm in mourning over the loss of my family recently, so I'm not the person to talk about this.
I listened to a keynote of a chief HR officer at a big software conference, and she went on for better part of an hour talking about how she was changing the culture single-handedly at this company. And what she did was she changed the color of the corporate logo. And
well,
I won't say anymore because you guys will know the vendor here probably. And I knew I was sitting there with another colleague of ours, Ray Wong, and we whispered to each other the same comment at the same time, and that was, "She'll be gone in a year." And that was because she never saw part of her mandate to actually talk to real employees in the company. I quizzed this individual later on, and she had no interest in what anybody actually thought. And I thought it was hilarious in a twisted way that she's going to lecture us about culture and she doesn't understand the first thing about it. Let's roll it forward, though, that, I think a lot of companies have no clue what their culture really stands for because their HR organization is doing some things that are contrary to what they really want to, get out with. There was a Wall Street Journal article this week that talked about how companies put job ads out there that they have no intention of filling because they just want to present the image that they're still hiring in a growing entity, when in fact they're just wasting people's time and building up expectations, that are never going to be realized. That's just one tiny little thing. There's a ton of other stuff. There's a class action lawsuit right now with one of the major HR ERP vendors where it's been alleged that their products actually discriminate against older people, people of color, and everything else. There's and I could go down the list. There is an ethical vacuum in a lot of what HR does in companies because they don't know what their job should be, and they get overly focused on
Well,
sugarcoating things like culture and asking.
I think
questions.
Thomas has summed it up here. A leader is a person who makes people want to do things. A manager
come on,
makes
stop with
people do
the
things.
fucking no. We're not gonna do sound bites. Let's do it. If we're gonna do it real. Don't.
Well,
repeat
I
sound bites.
personally agree with his comment. You may not,
Jesus
Esteban. You
Christ.
may think it's just a soundbite, but I think it's
It is a fucking
valuable
sound
comment.
bite.
I think it's
You
a
cannot
very
manage.
valuable
You cannot
comment.
manage. You cannot manage by sound bites. Come on. A leader is a person who makes people want to make do. I can't even repeat it. Those are not real words. That's a soundbite for people who don't understand what they're trying to do.
Ouch! Ouch! Ouch!
Well,
All right.
ouch all you want, but it's true though.
Esteban,
if you're gonna you don't manage people by making people want to do things or tell them what to do things. You manage people by you really want to manage people. Go listen to what Bob said. You look at what people want to do and you help them get to where they need to go. Personal accountability is number one. You need to know where you want to go, and somebody's going to take you to it's going to help you get there by taking the shots for you, that are coming from everywhere.
Esteban, so give me an example besides Bob. Are there any other examples of people that are doing exactly what you just said that you could?
There's a lot of people that are doing exactly what I say. I don't want to mention anybody in particular because I don't know if I can, and I don't want to put people on the spotlight. I mean, I know with Bob, it's fine. There were other people within SAP that did the same. That basically took their teams and basically said, "What do you want to do? Let me help you get there." The last manager I had at SAP was one of those people. She didn't want to just be a leader and be renowned and rewarded. She wanted to make sure that her team got to where they wanted to go. You don't tell people where to go. You don't tell people, how to get there. You take the hits for your people so they actually get to where they need to go. That's the bottom line. I'm not giving you the long version of your statement because your statement was a soundbite. There was no statement there. So stop using sound bites and there'll be a statement.
All right, let's move on because I think the second clip kind of feeds into. Actually, this is actually pretty. I'm okay with all this going on. Anyway, second clip from Bob because this gets into the layoffs and where not only leadership comes into that, but also the employees and maybe where they come up short. So, and then we'll throw it open again. So here's clip number 2.
If your margins aren't good, you're going to have to let people go. But I still come back to the point of how do you wake up one morning and realize that you have 10,000 more people than what you need, or 20,000 more people than what you need, or 3,000 more people than what you need? How does that happen? People weren't doing their jobs at the end of the day. You have to really question the leadership in these companies. What were they doing? How does that happen that you wake up one morning and realize you have way too many people? I just think that everyone in this industry needs to take a step back and really go back to the basics. Why are we here? What job are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? You're not trying to give somebody a home. You're not their family, right? You're hired to do a job. Do it. I think companies just got blindsided by thinking that they had to provide all these great things to workers. Otherwise, they didn't want to work for their company. Well, I think people would rather have a job than have all those things nowadays.
Amen. Can I have an amen?
Well, it's all cyclical, right? I mean, all of us here, I think, have been around a long time, and we've seen this whole thing of, what employees have to do to get a job, the bar gets higher, or what companies have to do to get the employees get higher. So it's not like it's this flat line. It changes as workers become a more valuable commodity. Companies have to do more to get them. As jobs become less plentiful, companies don't have to do as much great stuff to get them. So it's not a static thing.
I think that the statement that Bob made is to answer the question: how do you wake up one morning and realize you have 10,000 too many people? That's a failure at many levels on what Brian was saying earlier. If you see a bad apple, you pulled it out of the barrel. You don't leave it in the barrel hoping that then it's going to get better. And when you have one apple in the barrel and you leave it, then you have a whole team that doesn't work, and then you have areas that don't perform the way you expected, and that's how you end up with 10,000 people. If you were to get rid of the people that you want to as time goes by because they're not performing, that's great. If you don't do that, then you end up one day with taking advantage of the opportunity that the market is giving you a gift of being able to do layoffs and not judge you too harshly. And then you do 10,000, 20,000, 3,000, or whatever number of people you can lay off, because those are the people that you were intended to get rid of anyways.
Jody?
Sometimes you just overhire. I think a lot of tech firms definitely overhired with COVID, and they created all kinds of positions that when companies stopped
But why did
spending
it
as
take
much money, they had to tighten the purse strings.
why did it take 3 years? Why did it take
Sometimes
3
they
years to
take
realize
gambles.
that?
They take gambles on new projects and acquisitions, and they don't pan out.
Okay, perfectly. That's
It's
fine.
not one
But then-
reason that
but then
people
why
get laid off.
Why does it take you 3 years to realize that you overhired?
I asked one of the execs, but I don't think it's something that happens in one day, and I don't think it's something that unravels in one day. It's just
No,
not.
but this was known before, and it was a great opportunity. Most of the companies that lay off in mass, they took advantage of the opportunity that the market was not going to judge them too harshly, and they were just going to lay off them and take advantage of the fact that the stock went up when they did that. So the layoffs were not because they didn't know.
Everybody's a rotten apple. There's a lot of things that factor into a layoff.
In a company of 350,000 people, 10,000 people are basically the rotten apple.
Sure, there are rotten apples. Everybody agrees, but sometimes they just cut out a whole division or a whole department.
Hey, can we get Jody in? Because I know Jody's itching to say something.
Did you see my mouth opening like a guppy?
Right, 3 times.
So, I was actually going to say what you said, Lori, right? I think I agree. How do you wake up one morning and all of these companies have 10 and 15 and 20,000 people to lay off? I think the last several years, however, are a little bit of an oddity. And I say that because, right, COVID drove mass hiring for the adoption of technology that had to happen so quickly. And you had to ramp up your customer success teams. You had to ramp up support, and you had to ramp up all these other areas. And just as we suspected, right, it wasn't going to stay up here forever. I mean, COVID, everything kind of calmed down a little bit, and suddenly the market started to normalize a little bit more. And you don't need thousands of onboarding specialists anymore because your pipeline's not that full. So I don't think there's 10,000 bad apples that need to get cut from a department. I just think it's a combination. I think there are companies who took advantage of the opportunity to weed out in some cases. I think there's other areas where the market dynamics are speaking, and they had to normalize what they did 3 years prior.
I think you fell for Bob's trap. Bob laid out basically a single point of view, and you guys reacting to it, when I think the reason behind layoffs can be multifaceted. And as such, there are situations like there were companies that got burned by the Silicon Valley Bank failure who lack now capital, or had looked like they were going to lack capital, and have had to do some layoffs on that, on that front. I mean, I go through, there are a bunch of different reasons why somebody ends up in this, and it's never really great. But one of the things I find that really defined this issue for me was earlier in my career at Accenture. At one point, they realized that business was off in the Northeast U.S., and they decided to terminate like 6 partners and the pyramids underneath them in one fell swoop. That was contrary to what the original policy always was when it was part of Arthur Andersen. They would find ways to redeploy those people, their human assets, into other offices and other parts of the firm. And not only was that more humane, but it also brought a degree of like loyalty and just would energize performance of people because they knew the company had their back. That, I think, that soulless kind of layoff is the one that, to Esteban's point, I think I understand these things can happen. I think doing it in a soulless way shows a real lack of management leadership.
Oh,
And
1,000%, dude. 1,000,000%. That's where the leadership fails. It's not deciding to do the layoff; it's in how they do the layoff. And actually, a lot of the layoffs that we had this time around were subject to the new laws in California, where you have to notify somebody 30 days before they're going to be laid off. So a lot of companies said, "Hey, we're going to lay off 10,000 people, but we don't know who yet. But if you hang on for about 4 weeks, we'll tell you whether you get to keep your job or not, because we had to comply with the stupid law in California." But that's 1,000%. I agree with you. The way that it's been handled, it's been horrible, absolutely deplorable all across. I Every company has done a poor job of actually understanding that the people that are getting laid off are employees and quote unquote family members. To go back to what Bob and Paul were talking about.
okay, we need to call Ripley's because I agreed with Stefan's point earlier, and
Oh,
he agreed with
I'm
mine
getting
now.
wiser.
So we're in
I'm getting
uncharted
wiser.
territory.
I'm getting wiser as I age, dude. As I age, I get wiser. I agree with you more. How's that?
Oh,
Well, Jody and I will stick together then.
That's
awesome.
fine.
Awesome. All right. We got the last one, the last clip, and this is the one that actually caused the most.
It was
discussion.
my favorite.
Yeah. So we'll play this and then we'll just get out of the way. So here we go. Last clip from Bob.
It's a topic that I've struggled with in this industry from the day I entered it. Is it time for tech workers to unionize? Because who stood up for employees in this round of layoffs? Who was there to represent the employees? Nobody. Nobody was there to represent the employee. I've never been a huge fan of unions. My father was a union guy his entire life, and I used to hate hearing about unions. But I have to look at what's happening in this industry now, and it's time. It is freaking time for workers to have something that is a voice for them, because nobody is standing up for people in these companies. What was done is a travesty here. And maybe it is time to start having unions. Comment by my friend Chris, unions only drive mediocrity. I don't disagree at the end of the day, but maybe there's a different concept about unions. Look, unions do some good things at the end of the day. And maybe it's not a union, but somehow employees need to have representation. They need to be part of these decisions. I've actually been accused of causing a union at a company. And I did, actually. I'm not going to
Yes, you
deny it.
did, brother.
It was in one of my earlier days when I probably wasn't the best. But look, at the end of the day, there's some good things that happen with unions. And for me, the most important one is really about employees having a body that's a voice for them at the end of the day. And I know that doesn't always work with unions, but I think something's got to happen.
So can I bring one up? There's 2 points that Bob made in that show that I'd like to bring up. One, he said early on, managers and leaders are the ones who take the hit and they care for their people. And 2, he said nobody's standing up for their people, so therefore we need a union. I don't appreciate unions in any stretch of the imagination. I don't believe they'll drive mediocrity. I think that is actually worse than that, but that's not the point. The point is if the leadership is not allowed to stand up for the people and care for the people and get what the people need, then yes, the concept of the union makes sense. But let's not rush to judgment, because once you get the union, it's like a Pandora's box. Once you open it, you don't actually get to close that one.
Again, the tech industry has had so many ups and downs, and companies that were on the Fortune 500 20 years ago in tech don't even exist anymore. Everybody knows this isn't like Oscar Mayer. It's not like hot dogs. So when you get into this industry, if you think you have a job for life, you're probably kind of crazy, honestly. And the average tech worker that has gotten laid off since the fall has found a new job in tech in 3 months. So when I look at tech workers compared to, people that work cleaning our rooms at hotels or whatever, Uber drivers even. I'm not really too worried about most of the tech workers.
I think we love those platitudes, hot dogs. But anyways, there's even like unions for advanced knowledge workers in other areas. So it's not like a tech workers versus somebody else. But the problem with the union, in my opinion, is like, it shifts the responsibility away from the worker and one from the leader and into someone else to actually take care of a problem that is not really a problem. I mean, unions exist for people that don't have a voice. Maybe potentially their time has run out. They were great in the early days, they're not so great now. But tech workers have a voice, and actually the people that did the great resignation cannot complain later on that, like, oh, the company had no loyalty towards me. I got laid off after only 3 months. I quit 3 jobs to get here and triple my salary in the process, and now I got laid off. How mean were they? It's a two-way street. I mean, you provide loyalty to the company provides loyalty back to you. You provide loyalty to your leaders provide loyalty to you. The union steps in there and everything gets screwed up, and there's no point to it. I don't think it's done for union. I think it's done for personal accountability and responsibility, that, like, you do what you have to do for the reasons that you do, and then the consequences that come with it, you actually suffer them. You resign 3 times to get higher in salary, great. You got laid off. So it's on you, not on the company that got laid off.
I'll chime in. I think the real issue here is we should not conflate the fact that there were recent layoffs. Therefore, we have to have unions. That could be one conclusion people might draw, but I think we need to ask the bigger question, which is, if we did have unions, what would you want them to help employees with beyond just layoffs? And like, one of them is, let's get rid of once and for all the non-competes and non-solicitation, all the other kind of things that are part of these really restrictive employment agreements, which handcuff people to their employers. If you really want to free up and help the employee, maybe that's one place to start. The other thing I think we ought to talk about in that regard is unions usually pop up because of bad management. And when you find companies that are not only well run, but treat employees either well or correctly or whatever, communicate with them on a very open basis, the union really kind of loses its reason for existence, its raison d'etre. So I think you have to ask yourself, if there are people calling for unions at a particular like tech company, I think you need to do a little digging and find out why. And chances are you probably find a high correlation that these folks may not have the best Glassdoor rankings or what have you with their company, because something's rotten in that firm or the leadership that's driving people to want to have that kind of representation.
Well, one of the things to add on to that, I think, today there's a different form where people can band together and voice concerns and create groups that advocate, right, socially. And you think about the communities that have sprouted up over the past 24 months. And if I have an issue, or if I want to find out more information or find out how can I tackle this problem, I have a place now that I can go, and those voices get really loud, especially on channels, especially when you're a known voice in an industry. So I think the concept of how people bring issues to light is changing, right? So before you had to go to, keeping with the union theme, the union board, and they brought your concerns to light, and it was behind closed doors, and now everything's out in the open. There's not a lot of privacy, right? What is a concern and what's an issue? You better be okay that it's going to be on Twitter, LinkedIn, every social channel.
Yeah, and these sites like Glassdoor really kind of lay everything open there, right, too. So if you're a job seeker, you can pretty easily vet what's happening in a company from the commentary on some of these sites.
Well, it's the sites, and it's the groups that you form, and if you're going to look for a job, you can go out to this core group of people and say, hey, I'm thinking about going here. What have you heard about this? And then you hear all those backdoor conversations, and it changes your opinion pretty quickly from what's being marketed to what's a reality.
Absolutely.
So could we go around before the end, just a simple yes or no? Do you think if tech workers had been unionized that this slew of layoffs that have taken place over the last 4 or 5 months would not have happened?
I can speak from experience that that's not true, because in a global company where unions exist, and like Bob said, he may be the cause of some of them. In a global company where unions exist, the layoffs occur the same. The difference is the way they were handled. Because there's more standing up for, like, let's not just do this inhumanely. Let's do it in the best way possible. But the layoffs would happen either way. People needing to lay people off is not anything new. It's the way that it was done that I find a problem.
I'll just say no, in keeping with the simple answer. I think they still would have happened.
I agree. Staying simple.
Brian.
I think that would have happened just over a longer time frame.
That's right.
So let me sort of throw one other nuance Bob added to this, which was he was talking about that up to a certain level, that tech workers should be paid hourly. And the reason he said, not with benefits, of course, but hourly. And the reason he said is because a lot of tech companies salary the employees to get them to work overtime without paying them for overtime. Because, on an hourly pay scale, they're required to pay overtime. Right. And so what do you think of that?
Well, it's definitely what some big companies in the defense industry, like Raytheon, I have two family members, that's what they do. So it's not a model that's unheard of for, highly skilled, highly degreed people. It's worth considering.
But let's be honest. I mean, these guys that are paid a salary, they get paid incredibly good salaries. So it's not like they're suffering at the end of the day. I mean, they get paid gigantic salaries, gigantic signing bonuses, gigantic stock options, and then they do the work because they see the reward is like to get those large salaries. So
I don't think he's talking about those people particularly. I think he's going lower on the scale.
Who are we talking about? Those in the tech industry. That's where they
below.
I mean, I'm sorry. You're talking about marketing people.
It could be a marketing person. It could be a coder who's just coming in. It could be the lower echelons of tech. Let's call it that.
Admin,
yeah. You can't pay a marketer by the hour. That'd be a very small check.
Oh, you can't pay a marketer enough.
Oh God.
Jody, it seems like you might have a few thoughts on that one.
I mean, I agree, right? In the tech industry, the salaries are nice from a salary perspective, and I can't even imagine the bookkeeping nightmare of hourly with those type of projects on a mass scale.
Well, here's something to think about, folks. Earlier in my career, there was a big difference between people who worked like in the audit and tax world, where they have busy seasons and they have to just pour in heinous amounts of time between January and April. And then there were the consultants, and the consultants were basically paid, if you will, hourly. Right. And what was interesting about that is if a manager or partner asked a staff person to work and that person was not to charge that time in, that partner or manager got fired. That's called ghosting, and it's taking advantage of people, and it does have a crippling impact on morale, recruiting, and everything else if you don't pay people for the time that you get out of it, particularly when you bill the hours they ghosted. Now that's like double dipping. That's that's not paying somebody for work that you're getting financial upside on, and companies are doing this too. And I think where we really ought to wrap on that is or end on that point is pay people for the time they work. And if you are inefficient and you don't know how to plan a project or whatever, and you're causing people to churn their work and redo things because you should pay for it, period. I mean, otherwise give them a 40-hour or whatever kind of week's worth of work and then get out of their way and let them do it.
I don't think the concept of 40 hours exists anymore.
It does.
And that's unfortunate.
Not only that, but the concept of even when I'm having conversations with friends that are starting consulting businesses, nobody's doing it by the hour anymore. It's done by outcome, right? And you see a lot of people in the tech industry that have 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs at the same time, where they can actually deliver on those jobs in the 60-hour week that they work week that they set for themselves. So the concept of like, needing to get paid by the hour, I don't know. I mean, how about by outcome? Tell me what you want done. Tell me how much value you put on that, and then I'll take a percentage of that, and that's the fee. And if you don't like it, then that's okay. Go find somebody else who will do it wrong, and then come and get me. I'll charge you twice as much. Consulting 101. Sorry.
Well, you bring that up. I remember when I was at PwC eons ago, I was on a project for Compact. I was flying every week and going from Atlanta to Houston every week. And they were billing me about 70 hours a week. I was on salary, so I wasn't getting additional, but they were certainly billing Compact to the point where me, a lonely, I was just a lowly consultant. I was the most expensive resource for the whole year that year for Compact. And they said, all right, we need to let you go. You work on another project or something, because they were killing the hours, but I was a full-time employee with salary.
I mean, kind of picking on marketing. I put myself out there, right? But when if I went on a business trip and I went to a trade show and I'm out there for 4 days, am I going to bill you for 4 days straight? Because I'm on the clock, right? I'm out there for you. Nobody's going to sign off on that one.
I mean, look, I identify as a marketer these days. My pronouns have changed from like tech worker to marketer, so.
Welcome to the good side.
But you still have to put irascible in front of that. So
that's
irascible marketer. That's it. That's the right title.
That's it.
We went from digital pestilence to irascible.
It's the name of your new Substack newsletter.
That's actually great. I want credit for that, by the way.
I'm actually going to create a podcast, Irascible Marketer, a production of Brent Leary and CRM Playaz. How's that?
Hey, that'll work, dude. That'll work. I gave you the other one I gave you didn't use, so.
I tried. Okay, that's a whole different conversation we cannot have until I get my last check.
All right. This has been great. This is the first time we actually set up to do something like this. You guys made it come true because, our first F-bomb that wasn't from Bob. That's
congratulations.
Metric we're keeping track of now. But no, this is great.
We call it the GV metric, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah, no, we're not calling it that.
No,
dude, don't.
No, don't worry, we're not.
No.
We're not. I was lying.
But no, thanks to everybody, because I really enjoyed it. It was fun listening to you guys, and thanks to Bob for helping to set us up with those talking points so that we could get you guys going. And it was fun to watch. So I think we're going to do this again at some point, right, Paul?
Yeah. Are you kidding? Although I want to be part of the panel next time.
we have to hit the topics, right? We didn't even touch.
We didn't go to AI. I was looking for AI.
No, that's why we're talking about AI.
Yeah.
Paul and
I'm a former union shop steward. Okay, so I used to build alliances with unions, and I also saw the corruption on the negative side and the benefit on the positive. So I'm not but I am of a single mind. I'm not going to get into it now because we don't have time.
The one thing that we said before we even started that we were not going to talk about was AI. So just let you know.
Yeah, because we're not going to talk about sound bites. So
wait a minute. The soundbite marketer. I think you can do that one.
No, I would never. There's plenty of those. I'd rather be the irascible, accomplished,
the irascible marketer work.
All right,
get something done.
We just want to say thanks to everybody. We know we ran a little long, but this was fun. It was kind of hard to stop. But thanks to Jody Spencer, who in the hot seat. Great show on PPN.
Mondays at 1 p.m. Every other Monday at 1 p.m.
And we have a great series coming up all on AI next. So
see, she's a marketer because she just waited right for that opening to bring that in. That was perfectly timed, Jody.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Lori McCabe, who I haven't seen, I don't know how long. I guess last year sometime.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
Dreamforce.
Yeah. Well, no, I think hopefully we'll see you at Zoholics.
Oh yeah, in Austin. Yep.
That's right.
Absolutely.
See you there.
I bet we'll see Brian at the Zoholics too, right?
I'll be there Yeah, I'll be there, but I may see some of you at a Redwood Shores event beforehand.
Oh, yes.
Not me. I'm on a cruise during that, so I won't be seeing you
Ooh,
there.
nice.
See you the week before then, yeah. And the irascible one, are you still? You're still laying low? You trying to just have
I'm
fun?
on sabbatical. I'm on sabbatical through the end of the summer, and then I'll figure out what I do. But there's a non-zero chance that it won't be in the enterprise tech world.
Ooh, intriguing.
I mean, you know, I'll need a place without sun bites.
Good luck with that one, dude.
Yeah, I was about to say. So you're going to be you're going to be a monk where they don't actually speak. There's no speech at all at the.
There's something about people. There's something about people saying something with that, sufficient backup and data and everything versus saying
Just
something
go.
because
I'm telling you, man.
it sounds cute. Yeah,
Vow of
accountability. That's a
silence,
big word.
Monkhood, vow of silence. That'll give you no sound bites.
All
Or
right.
a company with no marketing department.
There you go.
Oh, that's 90% of tech, right? So.
Well, all right. On behalf of Jody Spencer, Laura McKay, Brian Summer, the irascible Esteban Kolsky, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
There's Minnie. Wait a minute,
Oh, I love that
shot of
dog.
Minnie.
That's okay. Let's
I like her
there it
upside
is.
down. You
Oh,
know.
my lab Layla is going to be jealous. I'm going to have to send you her pictures.
Oh,
Do
Layla,
it.
Yeah.
Patrick from Rebecca. You know, we love the dogs on the show.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
we
I'll
will
be sending her pictures.
We'll be waiting for it, and we will be showing it.
and we'll
Okay.
see you next week.